Okay. Hit
forward. Okay.
So welcome, everyone. I've met many of you. If I haven't, my name is Eben Goodstein, and I'm director of the graduate programs that focus on sustainability at Bard College in New York. And along with my colleagues, David Blockstein and Tobias Hess, we are the global organizers of the worldwide teach-in on climate and justice. And today we're going to hear from at least one of the folks who is organizing a teach-in and can tell us more about what that entails and what it's looking like on their campus as it shapes up. This is really just kind of our now weekly office hour session where we invite teach-in organizers from across the world to come together and share ideas and inspire one another to greater heights. For those, do we have anyone who is new to the teach-in? I don't want to be repetitive. Well, I guess Mara, you're new to it. So let me take 5 minutes to just lay out the basic structure here. And of course, I'm sure for this audience, I don't need to explain, why we need to do this teach-in, but our basic theory of change is that as educators, we are stronger together. And by coming together during this week of March 29th and joining forces, we can all collectively do more than we could do by ourselves. And in addition, we believe that increasing numbers of faculty and students across the world are becoming more and more deeply climate concerned, if not climate depressed or despairing. And as a consequence, we feel like there's lots of new people that we could be bringing into this conversation, and in particular, new faculty. Because the more teachers that we get talking about climate change, either in one-day extracurricular events or in their classrooms through our hashtag Make Climate a Class initiative, the more students are going to be hearing about climate change. And in particular, our message is that young people are going to be working on climate change for 30 years, and this is an exciting thing, not a depressing thing, because we all have the opportunity in the work we do ahead, musicians or artists or philosophers or scientists or engineers, to be part of this great work of repairing the world and stabilizing the climate. So the idea here is that any faculty member who's not a climate expert can nevertheless be talking about climate change, because whether they're a historian or a chemist or a computer scientist, their discipline is contributing to just climate solutions. And getting those non-expert faculty members comfortable talking about climate change in that way and inspiring young people who want to be economists to become climate economists, or young people who want to be musicians to write climate songs, is an important and powerful thing that we can all do as educators. So let me very briefly share our website and just provide you with some basic resources. So let me get to that and share this guy. Okay, so here is our website, just worldwideteachin.org. We've got our key organizing video right here that kind of explains to the world in 1 minute what this is all about. There's a longer 10-minute version. If you have not yet signed up, this is the most important button to hit: register your event. And when you do that, it will pop up this lovely interactive map that was made with the help of the Earth Day Network for us. And you can see we have 200 events around the world. So we will be engaging, easily 200,000 people. I'm sorry, 20,000 people. Got a little bit overestimated there. 20,000 people in the teach-in. We got great coverage from Africa. So thank you, Princess, and your colleagues. So we still have time because a teach-in does not have to be large to count. It can be, 15 students in a class. It can be 20 students having a dinner or a lunch together. But it can also obviously be more ambitious than that. And so please, let's do something on your campus, no matter what the scale, and please sign up for this. And the last thing I'll point out is that probably at this stage, if you're interested, the best way to go forward is to schedule a one-on-one with David or Tobias or myself, and we can walk you through the models page and all the different approaches you could take to running a teach-in of any scale on your campus. But lots of stuff on the website. I'm not going to go through it. Lots of models, lots of ideas, and we'll hear some of those today. And do that quickly, right? Because there's still time. There's still 6 weeks. I'm still working on the details of our teach-in. In fact, just before I got on this call, I reserved the room because we had some trouble and I had to move to a new room. So I just did that. But we're really looking forward to a really engaging day. And also we've got 40 Bard faculty who have agreed to talk about climate change in their classes. And another, I think 25 or 30 at AUCA who are committed to doing this as well. So lots of good models, lots of ways to get this done. And with that, David, let me turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Eben. So we want to give everybody a chance to be as successful as they can, and we have a lot of tools on our website. And also, I should say that in terms of the timing, that if you need a little bit of extra time to get things organized, that's okay. There's nothing sacred about the date of March 29th. If you want to do something closer to Earth Day that gives you a little more time and ties in with Earth Day activities, that's perfectly fine too. The most important thing is that there is climate change education and that it's reaching beyond just the usual people. So I'm going to introduce the format today is we're going to have one speaker, and then it'll be kind of an open discussion for each of you to share your ideas and your plans and any questions or feedback that you're looking for. And I will say that I'm actually going to be switching off this view and just joining by phone in a few minutes. But before I do that, I do want to introduce Tara Scully, who is the Director of Sustainability Academics at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. She's also an assistant professor of biology at George Washington, locally known as GW. And last year I had the privilege to actually go to, I think it was my first live event since the things were shut down for the pandemic, that Tara and her colleagues at 8 other universities and colleges in the Washington, D.C. area worked together in a coordinated teach-in, a DC climate convergence. And it was just, it was great to be with people, but it was great to see all of these universities collaborating and to hear the different activities that were going on the campus, as well as to hear some fabulous speakers. So I'm not going to describe that in any further, and I'll turn it over to Tara to talk both about this amazing event in 2022 and what is on store for 2023. So thank you, Tara, for all your great work.
Thank you both, and welcome everybody. I'm really excited to tell you about my story and our story here in DC. I'm actually going to start before last year, because we participated first in the teach-in 2020, 2020. And we did it early. And the reason why I want to start there is because it gives you flexibility to think about how you can do it for your own schedule and what it can look like on your own campus. So in 2020, before the pandemic actually hit, we did a teach-in, and our focus was organizing our student groups. We decided to bring all the student groups that were related to sustainability in some way, shape, or form together. And we provided, of course, food, which attracts students. So I'll tell you, number one, bring food. But it was amazing because the students didn't realize what other groups were doing on our campus. And it gave them the space and time to speak to one another about what they could do in terms of action on our own campus. And what happened after that, before the pandemic, is they organized together different events around divestment from fossil fuels on our campus. Even though the pandemic hit, the impact of what they did on our campus was so incredible that it led to the Board of Trustees forming an ESG task force. And I thankfully was asked to be part of the task force, and we ended up agreeing to committing to divestment on our campus. And this was directly correlated to the teach-in. So from that teach-in, we got divestment on our campus. Not only divestment, but we also got other commitments related to sustainability, which was totally student-led. And I think that empowering our students to come to the realization that, you know what, they are clients. If we're going to be real about how a university works, if we don't have students, we don't have people to pay us money. And so they have more power in many respects than we do as faculty members. So I think that making sure they understand that they have a really incredible role and power on your campuses is really important to do. So then that led to the formation of what we call now DC Cheers. Of course, we're in DC, so we have to have an acronym for everything. And so it's the Coalition of Higher Education for the Environment, Resilience, and Sustainability. Over the pandemic, me and some colleagues from Georgetown and Howard University decided that we really wanted to get a coalition of faculty across the universities together so that we could get students across the university together. And this led to us having meeting after meeting after meeting of what this was going to look like. And we decided that with Bard's teach-in, that this was the great opportunity for us to take advantage of something that's kind of half-baked already. Like, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We could just do a teach-in together. And so what we decided to do, we got colleagues from all the universities in DC to have a student representative from their campus to talk about what they're doing about sustainability and climate change issues on their campuses. And so we did our teach-in on the day of when Bard had their teach-in day. Each university did their own thing for the first 2 hours, and then we had a collaborative Zoom meeting across the universities. Some people came to GW where we hosted it, and everyone shared their ideas. We had over 300 participants, which is pretty incredible, especially for Zoom, given that everybody was kind of zoomed out this past year. So it was a well-received event, and it started to form coalitions with the student groups across campuses. And then, as David spoke about, we also had an event at Howard University where we wanted to highlight what new actions our universities were taking related to climate change. And so we had an administrator from each university come and speak to, all right, what are you doing related to climate issues on your campus? Here at GW, we have a very robust public health program. And so they have started their own Climate and Health Institute. And so we highlighted that about our campuses, but everyone had their own, shtick. Everybody does something different on their own campuses. So it was a really wonderful experience to kind of talk about what we're doing, and also seeing how our colleagues would interact with one another and help support one another. Sometimes, a university doesn't have the same resources as another university. So for instance, today from this coalition, I have students who are coming to my laboratory to work on microplastic analysis. And they're coming from Trinity University, which is an all-female university. And they don't have the same laboratory space as what we do. So they don't have the same type of technology, and we can offer that to them. So from this, we've gotten collaborative efforts that have not existed in the past that now exist because of the teaching. So I offer to you that this is an amazing opportunity to not just think about your own campuses, but then to reach out to other campuses. So this coming year, we are all kind of working again together to figure out what we want to do. GW is kind of in a unique position this year. We have a new administration coming in. We have a new president, which we're very excited about. So we're doing our own teaching, because what we want to do is have our student groups come together and think about what message we want to send to the new administration and what asks we want the new administration to take related to climate change. So we're going to do kind of an insular type of teaching because of what's happening on our campus. But the other universities, some of them are coming together to do a joint teach-in, and then we're all coming together in April after Earth Day, and we're going to be doing a almost like sit-in with our student groups, where we share experiences related to what student groups can do and should be doing on their campuses related to climate change and justice issues. So that's kind of where my story is at right now. I think that it's been a lovely journey, and it wouldn't have existed without this teach-in, and it's given us a lot of power on our campuses. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer anything.
Well, Tara, thank you very much. And honestly, that's very heartwarming. Excuse me, it's not heartwarming. It's heart. That's like what dogs have to do. It's very heartwarming for me and Tobias and David and the others people who are the staff on this program to understand how this is really supported you guys, because we worked very hard on this, and it's really so nice to hear that we're really providing some synergies to help drive you beyond what you would be doing already, which is a lot. So questions.
Well, it's given us a framework. I mean,
yeah.
that's important. I really can't emphasize that enough. Like there was the passion throughout all of us that existed. It's just that we didn't have the framework to do it. And I really applaud you all for, this is a framework for all of us to really get it going, to really motivate our universities, to motivate our communities, even to make the change that we want to make.
And do you find kind of that you are reaching out to sort of engage more climate concerned, but not climate expert faculty in particular?
Yes,
because that's
definitely.
kind of our theory of change, is that those people are out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that people who they don't necessarily understand sustainability as a concept, but they get it like wholeheartedly, it's in their hearts. It's just that they don't, it's almost too, I don't know, it's too outside their realm of expertise that they then can engage. As soon as you tell them, all right, well, we're going to get the students together and we're just going to chat about this, it changes the conversation totally.
Great. Any other questions? Or go ahead, Jeannie.
Hi there, Tara, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I do have a question for you just in terms of student motivation and student involvement. I mean, food always helps. But one of the things that I'm finding at my university, at Bradley University, is that there seems to be a core group of students, very small core group of students that want to do everything, and then trying to get students motivated. And this seems to be particularly the case, I think, after what we've been through with the pandemic, after COVID, that it's just hard to get students to show up, literally and figuratively. So I wondered if you had any strategies besides food
I do.
and how you have managed to get your students so active and so involved.
So first off, I would say I totally agree. After COVID, it's been hard to get students to feel comfortable communicating. So getting them to talk, even in class, has been much more challenging. I would say two different strategies. One is asking other professors to give extra credit or some type of service credit. So I do service learning courses where they have to go out and do projects in the community as part of their grade. And so we count this towards their service credit. And the reason why I like that, even though it seems like, oh, well, they're just doing it because, they get the check mark or whatever, is they actually engage students who wouldn't show up, who have a different voice, who have a different perspective, that would never show up if it was just optional. And you want everybody's voice to be there. And so I think that giving that opportunity for those voices that wouldn't show up to be there is really helpful.
Yeah, that's great. That is it. Giving them incentives is really important. And you're right. I mean, sometimes we think that, well, the ones that just have to be there, they're not really going to contribute anything, but I think we do need those incentives for them. So thank you so much.
Even to step away for a moment, I haven't officially introduced myself. I'm Tobias Hess. I'm part of the Worldwide Teaching team, so I'll be stepping in to moderate for a moment. Thank you, Tara, for sharing, and really inspiring. Seth, do you have I'm seeing your hand raised. Do you have a question for Tara?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm curious what on this subject of engaging with students, what other campuses are doing. And I'll share one thing we're trying, but our campus is different from a lot of campuses. We're quite small, 1,200 students in basically one building. And so one of the things we're going to be doing is having a daily movie, film, shorts on climate change that run during the lunch hour in what we call the forum, which is close to where everybody's eating and sitting. So we're going to try to create kind of an environment of this is important, and we're going to be running a lot of videos. Are other people doing things, similar kinds of things, or different kinds of things to help get the mood going, get momentum going?
But I hate to monopolize. I could jump in. At Bradley, what we're doing this year, and Tobias, if you wouldn't mind, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about what we did last year and then how we're doing it differently this year. So what we did last year was follow BART, and that was the first time that Bradley had done this. And I'm an international studies faculty member, but I'm also the faculty director of a new office on campus, the Office of Global Studies and Initiatives. So we've been the ones taking the lead on this. So last year we followed the BARD model of the 3-hour panel-based teach-in. And we involved students, and it was really great. This year we are doing the Make Climate a Class. And in addition to, and I totaled so far what we've got in terms of participation, we've got 20 faculty, that are including 35 of their classes. And the enrollment in those classes, I went ahead and counted this morning, so far is 725 students. So we're doing that. But then we also are collaborating with other units on campus, and we have the week before we're doing the make climate a class. And actually we have a few co-teach for climate also across disciplines. We've got 4 of those projects going on. So the week before, we're having 2 campus events on wildlife conservation, and including one on documentary filmmaking. And then the week of, we're having Dr. Don Wubbles, which some of you may know, he was one of the coordinating lead authors on the IPCC reports. He's at University of Illinois. So he's coming over on the Monday of the teach-in, so Monday the 27th. And then on that Friday, we're having another climate expert, Will Burns, and he's going to be talking about solutions. And then we're going to follow that immediately by a student panel, and they're going to be talking about, you know, what have we learned this week? And we're going to try to get as many students as possible to that afternoon session. So that's what we're up to, but I'm still running into, you know, I keep emailing students and saying, hey, you know, do you want to be involved? And it's been kind of difficult. I'm hoping that once the faculty members start talking about this in their courses and trying to encourage people to come to these events, and I'm encouraging them to offer extra credit or actually require attendance at some of these things. So we're hoping that we get a big student turnout in that way.
And I would say, Seth, one important thing to consider is having a space or an event where you have students reflect on the content that you've been asking them to watch or listen to. Students don't feel like they have enough space and time. And I know, Jeannie, you had mentioned that there's this issue of communication, but once you open the door, it's like the floodgates opening. And I think that they just need to feel that they have a space that's safe for them to talk about these issues. And this goes back to the climate anxiety that we have, I think, all noticed that has happened in this generation, because it more so than ever, I think this generation feels that it's on the weight of their shoulders to figure this out. And I think it's totally unfair, clearly, because they're not the ones who are making the decision, but they're the ones who have to, unfortunately, push for it to happen.
And sorry, just to follow up on that, is these times when people get together at a different time of day in a different context? I'm thinking of, you know, we have a green club that could conceivably do this kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I think that's great. I think it's important to think about having students lead it. So the first teach-in that I was referring to earlier, we had the student groups lead the conversation. This teach-in that we're having coming up, it's all student-led. Now, we finally have unlocked the issue of grad student groups. We've never engaged with grad student groups before, and all of a sudden we've figured out, like, oh, there are actually grad students who are really interested and care about these things. And so we're going to have them as moderators for each of our breakout groups. We're going to have them lead it. We don't, I feel like students feel more comfortable speaking to people at their same level. And we're just going to be there as, you know, facilitators if they need us, but not like managing everything.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I don't want to dominate too much, but I have a follow-on question.
Mm-hmm.
One way of attracting young people to events is celebrities. And the only celebrity I know of is Greta Thunberg. Are there others that I'm not aware of who are climate celebrities that, you know, would attract people to come to an event? Are there musical groups, singers that are particularly focused on this topic?
I don't know.
Actors, Jennifer Lawrence.
Tobias, that's probably over to you. You're our
No.
cultural envoy to the college students.
Sure. Yeah, in terms of, you know, recognizable figures, I mean, anyone who is globally recognizable would, I think, frankly, be a difficult lift in terms of getting them, like a Greta, for example. But I encourage you to look at some recognizable youth organizations like Fridays for Future, Sunrise Movement. In Kyrgyzstan, I don't know if there's an equivalent, but some representative from that organization, I think, would resonate, and you don't necessarily need like the big expensive keynote speaker. I know, Tara, you had Bill McKibben, which is
we had
like
Bill
the equivalent.
McKibben.
Yeah, so that's a big one.
But we also did Kari Fulton, who's a climate activist from Howard University, and we hosted it at Howard, but we also wanted to have somebody who was younger, and we wanted to show that this is a transgenerational issue. This is not like just on one generation. So I think that having somebody who is local is just as important as somebody who's famous.
Yeah, we do have some people who are environmentally oriented, but not climate change oriented. Right now, our big problem is air quality. And so we have one well-known person who's leading the charge on that. But even, here's a challenge for you. See if you can get Greta Thunberg to create a little video that you could say, hey, we're going to send this out to 200 campuses around the world.
Yep.
Maybe not this year, but next year.
Yep. No, it's a great idea. And in our work in the past, we have worked with celebrities, not this round, but in the past, we worked with people like Woody Harrelson and Ed Norton and others. So that was back in the 2000s when they might have been easier to get to than they are now. So it certainly helps. It's it's definitely a strategy. But I agree that giving students a chance to talk right now is probably one of the most important things that we can do, and that is going to be the focus of our teaching this year. So we're actually we're going to, the way it's structured is we're going to invite in from the community a bunch of folks who work on climate change, as farmers and solar industry people and community activists for mocktails with our students. And then we're going to have a inexpensive soup and cornbread dinner, a keynote panel, but then we're going to go just into breakout groups for facilitated discussion. Again, Seth, picking up from you where starting to just take people's temperature. Where are you at in terms of your climate anxiety? Are you at a 1 or a 10? And where is a healthy place to be? Maybe a 7 or 8. Where are students that you where are your other where are other people at, and how can we move them from a 1 to a 7? So that's going to be the nature of the discussion that we're going to have. So it's a pretty simple model. It's really much more kind of facilitated discussion than it's going to be information delivery.
But I think that's important. Last year we were very ambitious last year. We had 8 breakouts last year, but the one that was most successful that I legitimately heard students come and talk about afterwards was the mental health one. We had friends of mine who, just are spiritual people who came to talk about you know, these conflicts between religion and climate change issues, and then talk to them about, you know, meditation and what they can do to relax when they start to get anxiety related to climate change. Because it can be overwhelming. I mean, it's sometimes you're like, well, how do I actually get to, you know, a happy place when I have to grow up in this situation? And I think having those discussions and just also knowing that other people feel the same way. I mean, it's like any issue of, you know, with therapy, like when you have an injury, you want to know that somebody else has experienced that same injury. And so I think getting the students to speak to that. I mean, and I would say, Seth, also, air quality is completely and utterly related to climate change. So I would bring in your air quality person. We have a lot of people on our campus. Actually, that was one of our breakouts. We had a breakout on air quality issues last year, and we had 2 of our experts on our campus come and talk. And the students also found that fascinating as well, because they don't really think about it. It's not in the forefront of their minds because it's not as obvious in DC as it is elsewhere.
Good, thank you. Good food for thought. Mira, we got some talking to do.
Yeah. And Seth, just, I mean, we should talk more about this, but I mean, I think the big issue for Kyrgyzstan is how do you move directly from coal burning furnaces that are polluting people to solar or wind or, you know, renewables without making a detour through natural gas, which is probably what, you know, the big push will be towards. So, you know, so that to me is probably the real big challenging public policy or economic issue that, you know, you need to sort through.
And I think that you can make the argument to like skip over. It's like in Africa, how they skipped over from the issue of like money exchange right to like Venmo type of technology. They skipped over a lot of like technological steps to create a system where you can actually exchange money faster and easier. That's what you need to do in Kyrgyzstan. You need to skip over all of the little steps that we take in other countries related to energy production and just jump right in to like the good stuff.
Capital cost.
Yeah, the capital cost, the costs
Yeah.
are, but the costs are also high for, you know, natural gas infrastructure. So, you know, if you're building it all from scratch, but it's a huge issue, but I think probably you've thought about it as well. So other ideas or questions, or maybe other people would want to share what they're doing at their teach-ins. Or do people have questions about how to get started at this late date, or you know, resources we have? Anything would be helpful. Let us know.
I can share.
Yes, please, Jason, go ahead.
Thanks. Excuse me. I'm Jason Davis. I lead an organization called Climate Stories Project, and we're based in Massachusetts, but we do a whole lot of online work. And I just came across this teach-in online, and I was excited to take part. And just to offer everyone here teaching this, we're going to be doing a climate storytelling teacher training on the 30th of March. So hopefully, you know, at that point you have some space in your schedule and you've already done your teaching activities. But I would just kind of like we were talking about before about communication and giving students a chance to have the space to express their emotions and talk about what it means to live in the world we live in, and think about positive change they can make, and connect with people. You know, it could be people in their community, it could be people all the way around the world. So just put in a plug if you're interested in integrating climate storytelling into your teaching work. I found it really rewarding. So that's going to be March 30th, which is Thursday at noon Eastern time. And if you just go to climatestoriesproject.org, there's a registration link there, so I can put that in the chat for anyone interested. And I'd love to be in touch and find out more where you're coming from too. So that's just my little bit there.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right, Richard, go ahead. Yeah, Richard,
I have a question, really, I think for Tara and and anyone else, I just wondered if you might be able to elaborate a little bit on the idea of creating a space or spaces for students to reflect. Yeah, I guess I just would be some examples of that, because I think that's really important, and I hadn't completely considered that. So experiences, ideas you might be able to share.
Yep. So I will say that as a biologist, I don't feel like a professional in that space. But what I did was I got some of my friends who are professionals, who are therapists, who were able to go and speak to the students and just give them the time to think about these climate issues, to talk about what worries them. I think goes back then, and like thinking about what is their biggest concern, what is, on the top of their minds. And so giving those leading questions, I think, is really helpful. But in the end, I would say also, and if you have some faculty who you can tap into, this would be great. But if not, always end with solutions. Don't let them feel like there's no way out, because that's the reason why they have anxiety. Is they have anxiety because they feel like no one's doing anything, when in reality there are people doing stuff, and there are a lot of great solutions. It's just that we pick at the wound. We watch the train crash. We don't think about the fact that there's healing that happens, and we have the space, the time, and the technology to do that. It's that we want it to happen faster.
Right.
One of the things we did last year was we had in our panel of faculty, we had a panel called Dealing with Climate Despair. And we had a psychology professor, and we had an artist, and we had a literature professor who talked about not some sort of therapeutic perspective so much, but more from a disciplinary perspective about how, literature is grappling with that issue, or artists are grappling with that issue. So that's another approach to make it a little more academic and a little less therapeutic kind of conversation about that.
Yeah, what I'm just curious about is the how you have been facilitating that, like follow-up meetings, follow-up sessions in venues, like even possibly throughout the year, not just March 29th, because it's an ongoing concern of students, I just wondered, whether people have, how you've facilitated that. Tara, for example, we just talked about there, how did you facilitate that?
So I do this often in my classes. So like I do this pretty consistently now, because of, again, going back to what Jeannie and I were talking about earlier, is this is noticeable, not just because of climate issues. COVID is definitely causing a lot of issues for our students as well. I check with my students pretty much every week, and literally just say, all right, how is everybody doing? Does anybody want to share anything? And giving them the opportunity to just talk about their concerns is very helpful. And I say to them, like, I'll stay after class if anybody wants to just chat one-on-one. I'm here for you. They don't show up to office hours, which, I think we blame it on COVID, but no one really showed up to office hours before COVID. So I don't think it's just COVID. But if I give them a little extra time after class, I tend to stay. Like, I often have to tell them I need to go. It gives them that space to know, like, if they have something, they could come and talk to me and share that. And sometimes it's just, them just saying how they feel. And, I tell them I'm not an expert, but I'm willing to listen.
So we're going to call out here for the next
Okay.
Could I jump in for a minute too? Just a couple of venues that we've created. I put in the chat information on Kim Smith. She works with ASHE, and she's at Portland. She's just really good in terms of, we invited her to do a couple of talks, and this was prior to the teach-in last year, because we basically had a whole year dealing with issues of global sustainability and programming on that. So we invited her, she gave a talk, and then a workshop for students, and it was specifically on eco anxiety, climate anxiety, and it was very interactive. And she goes out of her way to create a safe space in terms of, okay, we're not going to record this. What goes on here doesn't leave the room, and she really was able to create a safe space for students. So we had probably 50 students who participated in that. And then in our teach-in last year, and that was after Kim Smith came, in our teach-in, we had a couple of our counseling professors do a panel during the 3-hour teach-in discussing eco anxiety and climate anxiety and how to deal with it. And then also they just were able to give out the contact information for resources on campus in terms of people who can help in terms of the counseling services, et cetera. So that was two kind of formal ways of reaching students that I think worked pretty well.
Great, thank you.
Any other additional ideas, comments, thoughts? Suggestions? All right, well, we are coming up on the end of our hour, and still, if anybody wants to jump in, please do.
Eben, would you like me
yes,
to share what AUBG did last year for the teaching?
Of course, Russell, that would be terrific. Thank you. Yeah, we've got about 5 more minutes, so yeah.
Can I display the program and talk on it? Would that be acceptable, or should I just talk? Okay.
No, Tobias will make you a co-host. So for those who don't know, AUBG is the American University of Bulgaria.
Thank you for that. So I'm sharing a draft version of the program of last year's teaching. I want to clearly state that this was organized by my colleagues, Professor Carter Mandrik and Professor Daniel Atzet, teaching in business. AUBG set up a sustainability committee last year, which is composed of people from faculty, from administration, and students. And AUBG, the American University in Bulgaria, also has a student sustainability club in student affairs. And to Professor Scully and Eben shared, actually, we invited students not only to participate, but to lead some of the aspects of the program. We had 4 different panels, and I'm sharing this not to boast, just as an example, if it can inspire you possibly to do something about your teaching. First one was on academic research, starting with the institution. That's not necessarily a must-have priority. So there was a review of research collaborations with students. There was a sample of a senior thesis project on sustainable cosmetics in Bulgaria. There was overview of AUBG faculty projects. There was an overview of other student-led projects. For example, one was on second-hand clothing. You know how much water is used in the production of clothing, and this is picking up internationally. There was also, there actually is now sustainable personal transportation. This is directly related to emissions in climate. And there was an invitation by faculty for students to approach them and to work on topics that are not covered in general classes, but can become independent studies or senior thesis and senior projects across disciplines. I can give you some examples that are not in the traditional fields. Just getting to these, give me a second. So from Professor of Philosophy and Ethics on corporate ethics, social responsibility, from political science and European studies, political interest groups of greening, decarbonization, from biology professor Bill Clark on water conservation, watershed management, human dimensions of environmental decision making. And so these were just some examples. We then had the classroom experience. So sustainability in the curriculum, what courses cover sustainability issues already built in textbook or based on faculty interest, maybe a special session or a special class. There was an initiative to start promoting sustainability in education across the curriculum. So this was both to colleagues and to students to push for that. And a presentation of a possible sustainability minor that AUBG is still working on, but we have quite some good traction. This is an interdisciplinary studies trying to get in at least 4 or 5 majors on board. Then we had a panel on and around campus, and this was hosted by last year's president of the Student Sustainability Club. So she led that, she organized that. We had a representative of the WWF from Bulgaria, who also joined in. This is a draft program. The organizers have the final program. And also information on what other organizations are available in the local community. And we also talked about after graduation. We actually had a colleague from George Washington University, Professor Mania Petrova, who is a graduate from the first class of AUBG in '95, now leading a graduate program there. So we talked about jobs in sustainability internationally. One of our students did research on jobs in Bulgaria so that it's relevant to our students. We have a number of Bulgarian students or international students choosing to stay in Bulgaria after graduation. We had an example of startups by another graduate, and we had an example of a graduate program, dedicated graduate program from George W. So this is just an example. It definitely doesn't need to look like that, but this was based on a discussion in the Sustainability Committee. And it seemed to have done well. And this year they're preparing some upgrades. But my role is different, so cannot comment on the updates yet. Maybe next fall after they finish. I hope this was useful.
Thank you, Rasim. That was very useful. And excited to hear what it's going to look like this year. Richard had a question about opening remarks. We will be supplying an intro and outro video. So there will be, it'll be short, sort of 2 minutes on either end to kind of just frame your teach-in as part of a global initiative.
And that's what we did last year, Richard. I can put in, we did talking points for the moderators. And that I'll put in the chat. And also, Rosen, we have a sustainability minor at GW, and it's across all schools. So if you ever want to chat about that, I can show you our model. We're actually working across the DC universities to create a intro to sustainability course that is across all of our universities. So it's in the works, but we're trying to figure out how we can get our students to work together across DC.
It's just a fabulous way to scale. I'm very, we need to touch lots more people, and what a great idea to come together to.
And we want to make it open source. So whatever we do, we're going to record videos to have students watch from different disciplines about the different topics. And we're basing it on our intro to sustainability course on GW's campus. We do it based upon the SDGs. So we have experts from different areas talk about the different SDGs.
Tara, we should talk because we're just introducing a certificate in social enterprise and leading change. And it would be maybe a cool opportunity to expand your collaboration to some of these global universities that BARD works with.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
And we're having a launch conference for that on April 20th, and I'll follow up with an email. And anyone else that's interested in sort of how to expand, Jeannie, if there'd be interest, we're trying to really leverage sort of training across campuses. Excuse me, I have someone at the door I have to catch. So
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, and we also, we're working with Gallaudet University, which in the US, it's one of our premier schools for the deaf. And they don't have a sustainability program right now. And they're trying to create one, but it's challenging because they don't have enough professors who have background in sustainability. And so we're trying to figure out like how we can work together across the universities because of that, because some of these smaller schools, they can't afford to hire people.
I'll step in momentarily again for Eben. I know we're coming against our hour, and I'm sure folks have other meetings and things to get to, but anyone want to share any last thoughts or anything that you're doing at your institution? It's been really inspiring and great to hear all the different things that people are doing. Yeah, Marianne, thank you.
Hi, Tobias. This is more like a question. Is that, well, I'm going to present myself. My name is Marianne Nichols. I'm studying in University of Los Andes in Bogota, Colombia. I'm studying business administration and I'm doing a minor in history of arts. Well, I was talking with Carla, you know who she is. We are the hub of Latin America and the Caribbean, the Center of Sustainable Development Goals, Latin America and the Caribbean. We were thinking about the internship that I'm in right now of social media and climate activism. And we were thinking if it would be like possible to have contacts of the students from Latin America that are in the internship so that we could contact them and make them part of our teaching. Because I wrote an email to Arlo and she told me that she was going to look forward to it, but well, she didn't said anything else and we don't have many time. So yeah, I would love to have those contacts so that we could like make them part.
Yeah, Marianne, I was just preparing to pair all the teach-in hosts with interns, but I'll just expedite that and just give you all the Latin American hosts, and then you can connect with all the Latin American teach-ins. So I'll do that today. So
okay, thank you so much, Tobias. So I will also like write you a letter, an email, so that you have me like in your radar. Thank you so much.
And that's a good opportunity for me to just briefly mention that we do have this large internship program that's also sort of a course where students are learning social media and climate advocacy skills. So you will all be getting an email connecting you with interns who are taking part in that in your local region. And if that is support that you feel like you need, especially because they've been trained in graphic design and work like that, they are there to help support in any way. So if you want that support, they're there. Yeah, Seth.
Thank you.
Eben, you're trying to talk and you're muted.
So I think we're drawing to a close here. But Seth, you had one more point, yeah?
Are you still doing the grants? Because I just sent in the form for getting a grant. You're still doing that?
Yep,
Okay,
we are.
thanks.
So yeah, terrific. All right, well, thank you all for joining us today. We will be back tonight at 9 p.m. if you want to do this again. We're here every Wednesday at 10 and 9 now going forward through the teach-in, and would welcome your sharing your ideas and really the one thing you could do